Hi everyone! Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Shelly and today I'm going to be talking about an update on my project, which is a project that I set for myself to read the 1001 children's books you must read before you grow up based on the reference book with the same title. And I am going to just talk to you about some of the processes, some of the decisions that I have made, and answer some of the questions that I got in the comments of my first announcement video about the project. So what I've done since announcing the project and this moment now is that I have been cataloging the 1001 children's books you must read before you grow up, the list. I've been cataloging it on Goodreads, and I now have a cataloged list, a whole Goodreads account connected to the list. And so you guys can all, I'm going to link that below so you can look at it. You can dig around there for yourself if you're curious. And on there, I have a couple of different shelves. Well, first of all, I'm going to say that I am missing a handful of books. One of them, I'm sure, is cataloger's error, which is just me, that I missed it or that I didn't click the right thing. And I have missed 15 books, which to me, that's like 1.5% of the entire project. And I'm okay with that. And I do have the actual book. I own the list book. So I'm sure as I read through the projects, as I'm looking through and getting to know the list even more, that I will find those 15 books and I will make some decisions about it. But for the purposes of this video and for the purposes of the project, I thought 986 books is perfectly fine. Okay. So I have some shelves in Goodreads. I know I could have used a different platform than Goodreads. I could have created a website, created a blog, used Storygraph, but Goodreads has the most books cataloged on it, and there are some pretty obscure books on the list, and so that's why I decided to use Goodreads, though, it's a different conversation to support a big conglomerate versus a smaller website. But I have just chosen to use Goodreads for the simplicity and accessibility of it. So there are several shelves that I have created on Goodreads, and maybe I can throw up a picture so that I'm not talking so abstractly. The shelves I've created have to do with the appropriateness of the age range that the books are for according to the reference book. I'm actually going to grab my reference book. I'll be right back. All right. So the 1001 children's books that you must read before you grow up is divided into sections, which if you move my post-it notes aside, you'll see that the sections have to do with the age range of the appropriateness of the book for the child based on the editor and the book reviewers that put this reference book together. So they have decided that the sections are ages 0 through 3, 3 years up, 3 years old and up, 5 years old and up, 8 years old and up, and 12 years old and up. And my shelves on Goodreads coincide with these sections in the book. So that's how you can get to know how I divided things up. It wasn't me, it was all the reference book essentially, and I was just taking a page from their book. So of the 1001, I have read 156. Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading, Kelly, we miss you. Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading asked if I was going to reread those books, and in my initial comment, I said that I was. Then I discussed the project with my husband, and he was like, no. No, I mean, he suggested no, because he was like, you've already read them, and why create double work for yourself? And I was like, no, you're right. I have read them, and for the integrity of the project, I don't need to reread those books, though I'm sure I will revisit some of them. Some of them I've already revisited, and so on. So initially I said no, but no, I'm not going to reread the books that I've already read. So I have read 156 of those books. That leaves the rest to read. But I do have a couple of other shelves on Goodreads to help me categorize or to put a place to books that are I'm having issues with, and not emotional issues, but other issues. So there are 67 books that I found that don't seem to be translated, which is interesting. I think for the integrity of the project, I am not going to buy those books and read them through Google Translate. I don't think that is necessary for me. And again, the integrity of the project is to get to know more children's books and to read through children's books classics and to really get to know the history of children's books and the books that made an impact over the years. And I understand why the editors and the reviewers of this reference book have included translated works. I could imagine if one was a librarian and had a lot of maybe German-speaking students, the librarian would want to purchase a German classic that wasn't translated here in the United States to give to perhaps their German-speaking students. I understand that. I just used German because that was the first thing that I could think of. I'm watching a lot of Claudia from Spinster's Library, and so, I was just maybe thinking about her. But, so I understand why translated works are in here, but I'm not going to die on that hill. I hope that's the right saying, in order to just make sure that I read every single book. And so I buy it and then have Google translate it and then read it in that way. And I could tell that they were translated because all of the versions on Goodreads are all in foreign languages and all the reviews are in foreign languages. And if you look at the other editions listed on Goodreads that are cataloged under that same title, they are all in publishers that are not in English. So that's how I determined it. I will probably comb through that list a couple of times to make sure that there are not translated versions, but they're going to be at the bottom of my list, and there are 67 of those books. I have one additional shelf, which is called Cannot Find, and this means that I have looked in my library, in interlibrary loan, and I have looked on thrift books or on the internet, eBay, things like that, and I have not been able to find them. So if I've already kind of rummaged through those sources where I could find and buy those books, if I go through all of that for a book and I cannot find it, I'm going to shelve it as cannot find, and it means that maybe if I feel inspired, when I feel inspired, I'll go back and look for those cannot finds, or maybe I'll set up some alerts on thrift books or something like that in order to see if I can eventually find the books. I might rope in my father-in-law, who is a master book buyer, can often find hard to find books, and see if he can help me find these books. But otherwise, then again, they sort of get pushed to the bottom of the list. And I do believe that for the integrity of this project, it's about the sentiment of reading all of these children's books rather than being a perfectionist about it. Brian from Bookish recently mentioned that perfectionism is the enemy of good, and this is a good project for me. I am excited about this project, and I don't want to let the perfectionism of doing this project absolutely completely to get in the way of what good can come out of this project for me. So I believe we are all caught up to date, and that's where I'm at with the project. I'm going to leave all the links below. If you are one of those people who are like, but Shelly, we want to see the list in its entirety, I did find a PDF, which I will link for you all, and you can see the list in its entirety. I did not type up this list, but I found it in, I forget where I found it, but an authoritative source, and I looked through, and the list does seem to be absolutely complete to a T, so you can look through that list if you want to see a completed version, but it won't have the pictures of the books or anything like that. So, and I wanted to talk about maybe my yearly goal, my goal of how many I wanted to read this year so far. And I believe that the number that I landed on in my head was 50. I thought I've already read about 10. I need to get these numbers down perfectly. I need to get these numbers down solidly, but I've read about 10 of the books on the list so far that weren't rereads, that were new to me, and I think that at the pace that I'm going and before the end of the year, I would definitely like to get 40 more in under my belt, so to speak. Okay, so that is a project update, and it was very numbers heavy. Maybe this is not a very exciting video, but you all can now look at the list. You have access to the list in a couple of different formats, and I hope that that was helpful. Okay, so part 2, I wanted to talk about the results of the Mooks and the Gripes bucket list book tag. In there, I talked about books I wanted to read before I died, so to speak, and I had that video, a lot of enthusiastic comments, a lot of really encouraging comments, and I really, really appreciated that. Okay, one second. I received a ton of positive feedback on the list, on my bucket list books, and just talking about the books and thinking about what I wanted to read before I died, even though I don't know when that is going to happen, whether it's going to be sooner or later. I got really excited about the books that I was talking about. And so I have been toying around with this idea of something called the Trial of the Tomes 2022, because a lot of my books that I mentioned in that video, all of are tomes. Tomes loosely defined, meaning that a lot of them are long books. And of the flurry of the comments, there was a lot of people that mentioned that they wanted to see me read Proust and Moby Dick. Edith Wharton came up a bunch. The Goldfinch, Outlander. There was a couple that very few people mentioned, but there was a lot of positive feedback around those titles. The Odyssey was one that a lot of people mentioned. And so I have been thinking about these books more, which means that like I'm excited to get to them and to read them. So I don't know for sure if I can get to all of them in the next year and a few months, but I want to get to most of that list before the end of 2022. And so I've been kind of toying around with the idea of reading or trying to read the Trial of the Tomes from my bucket list, or maybe, the Clash of the Classics or something like that, because there was a lot of classics on there, in 2022, or from now until the end of 2022, that if I made that sort of a side project to read books that are more tome-like, because those are the books that I tend to avoid. I don't know, I haven't quite figured it out yet. I just know that I'm excited. Y'all have got me very excited about the books on that list, and I do want to get to them sooner rather than later, because I think it will only enrich my reading life, and I'm all about that, and I want to do that. So again, you might see the Trial of the Tomes 2022 for next year as a sort of sub-project of this listy project. And there are tomes in my children's books list as well that I could choose. So I don't know, that's what I'm toying around with. I know that's not very definitive, but again, you all have gotten me very, very excited about the books on my bucket list, like Proust, like Moby Dick and the Odyssey, the Iliad and the Odyssey, Catherine the Great, just all of these books that I have wanted to read and that I haven't. So thank you for that. Thank you so much. I am loving the influence that you all have on my reading life. It has only made it better and more exciting for me, and it's definitely enriched my life in many, many ways. And for that, I'm truly, truly grateful to be a part of this community that has just been so accepting and warm of my presence here. So anyways, that's it. I'm not going to get all gushy, but I wanted to give you all an update. I know this is a bit more abstract than my normal videos, and that's it. I thank you all so much for being here, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye everyone.